cold at the touch, dead in the eyes, no signs of life no more. I put your love under the knife. Leave me to die here all alone. No signs of life no more, no. A crying dove may never fly. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. Just black and white. Just let me go, it's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Just let me go, it's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. Just black and white. Black and white.
Hello ladies, hello gentlemen, welcome to SimRacers World TV for round 8 of the SimracerCoin Sunday GT Masters. From the fabled Road Atlanta, indeed, it has been a long summer's break, 2 long months where I've not been screaming at a microphone in front of my PC. I have been missing it dearly, and so I've been missing Edward May. Edward, I hope you feel the same way about me. And let's get into a fun night of Gentleman GT racing here at a track that is just as tricky as it looks here, Road Atlanta, and I think we can safely say we will be in for drama tonight.
Yes, thank you, Hasse. Good to be back here on SimRacer World TV for the 8th round of Sunday GT Masters, and I believe is this one of the open, or rather one of the closed setup meetings. I believe this is one where the setup is fixed, so every driver in every car is not able to adjust their setups to their wishes, and on a track like Road Atlanta, that could throw some spanners in the works for certain drivers, and there's drivers that I haven't actually seen around too much before. Eric Luke, he seems to be a newcomer, but going very well there for the virtual racing compound 709. The stars and stripes there, the red, white and blue, nice to see on his car. He makes his way over the crest of the S's and down towards turn 6.
Absolutely so, and it's actually quite the entree, if you will, setting some blistering lap times throughout the practice session here. 8 minutes of that to go, then we'll have qualifying, of course, coming up, deciding the grid order for the 45-minute race here. Eric Luke for Virtual Racing Compound, one of the newcomers indeed, and we'll just have to see how the racing pans out today. We have a few more changes. We've got a Kinder Egg of them, to be precise. A few new drivers, Eric Luke being one of them. We have a new car, and I think most of you will be familiar with the Porsche 911. But it is here, and it is here in the Sunday GT Masters as well. Maybe not looking to be hugely competitive here at Road Atlanta. It's not the strongest car on top speed. You do need a fast machine here. Make the most of that long back straight. Indeed, Chris Roberts making the most of the 911 GT3R, amongst others. It's a very popular choice. I think I saw this one coming, but interesting indeed, and nice to see another expansion of the GT3 field. It only makes the racing all the better. And of course, last but not least, there I mentioned that there is no more Holy Cow Sim Racing. And I think it's with a bit of sadness in my heart that we say goodbye to Holy Cow Sim Racers and say hello to Revel Racing, which is, I understand, a name change that has taken place. Oh, as Cody Steek gets a little fast and way wide on the entrance into turn 1, then doesn't give the space, and there's another Porsche there on the inside. And already in practice, you can see what's about to come here, Edward. That section of track from turn 1 and all the way down through the S's to the exit of turn 5 is going to be very, very tricky.
Yeah, but it's definitely going to be one of the main action zones in these race this evening, and also in qualifying when the drivers are fighting for track position, as we hear a little bit of contact on the way into turn 6. Hopefully there's nothing untoward going on here. There is obviously a qualifying session. We're going to see Jose Godinho in the GTZ Bulls Audi. Oh, just overcooks it a little bit. Runs across the grass there and has to slow it down, serving the penalty, and then getting up and running again. Not too many Audis. I think a lot of the drivers that were in Audis might have moved over into the Porsches, but there's still a good spread of different cars all throughout the field. In fact, there is one lone runner in a Ford GT. We still have a Ford GT, and it is being driven at the moment by, I believe, Matt Cizola in the Apex Tech machine. Apex Tech, obviously, I'm very familiar with, being a part of the Apex Technologies LMP2 Championship, also broadcast here on the SimRacer's World TV. I believe we're having, I think, one of the final rounds, if not the final round of the championship, coming up very, very soon here at the weekend. So keep your eyes open for that. Definitely going to be some great action there. You can see, though, isn't it? Good to see a Ford. Good to see a wide array of cars on the track.
Yeah, and it's got a great livery as well. We'll have a closer look when we actually get a chance to see a few of the details on that paint job. Very, very nice indeed. A very good evening or a good day wherever you're watching in the world. This is indeed an international series, so wouldn't be surprised to see us having viewers as well all over the world. But well, good day, good morning, good evening, or whatever it is, whatever time of day it is. A very warm welcome here to SimRacer's World, and it's be my pleasure to ball. After so long, Edward, it's been 2 long months for me away from commentating, and just because there's been basically a summer break on well, everything we do, and it's been nice with a bit of a breather, and certainly looking forward to getting back into the action indeed. Way. So then with the Sunday GT Masters here, championship leader. By the way, and I think we should get into this just before qualifying, but Matthew Forrest leads the standings, 164 points to his name, ahead of Peter Plastow, 148. Then Martin de Jong, 129 points for the Dutchman in third. Then Nick McLaughlin, the Canadian, his Ferrari, 111 points for him, and Timothy Vanderbroek, the rounding off the top 5 at 99 points, and come and fast throughout the midfield. Going to be an interesting one for the rest of this season to see if anyone really can dislodge Matthew Forrest from that leading championship spot, Edward. And so far, it's been looking like a tough job indeed.
Yeah, it's been looking very tricky for anyone to really match the pace of Matthew Forrest here up at the top of the championship. However, you can see there Ferrari getting very loose in front of him. Not sure that was. That looked to be one of the back markers. That potentially. It was Sven Dahlmann's getting all sorts of out of shape. Very good to keep this car out of the path of Matthew Forrest. You could just see though how tricky it is. Fix it up, maybe not what he's used to. Overcooks it a little bit. Comes back onto the circuit. Well, not what you want to be doing in the race, let's put it that way, and hopefully that is the last time we see Sven Dahlmann's making that sort of mistake down through the S's. Matthew Forrest will be hoping that he'll be able to get a good start to the race and a good qualifying result. That means he won't have too many cars in front of him to scare him doing things like that.
Yeah, indeed. Very much so. And let's go on board with Matthew for a lap of Road Atlanta and get a better view of what it's all about here. The final corner, flat out indeed, underneath the bridge. We'll have the start-finish line waiting right about, I think we've crossed it already. Turn 1. Of course, I'm used to the LMP2s around here. You go a fair bit quicker into turn 1, but using all the track. Then a very tricky turn 3 where you blindly aim for the right-hand apex. Matthew Forrest hitting it down towards the S's. And this is a balancing act in the GT3s as well. The left-hand turn 5, take as much curb on the exit as you dare, basically. As it could unsettle the car as well. And then a slight banking here on the right-hand turn 6. Coming into the very, very slow turn 7. And exit, all important, Matthew. I think carrying a bit too much speed maybe, but that could also be the view of the camera. Making it look a little skewered. And then the long, long back straight. And I've got a good little anecdote about Road Atlanta to tell here, but back in the I think that would have been the late 1970s as he's coming into the chicane, which is not quite rounding off to that, but almost. There's just one slight kink over the crest here, aiming for the apex as well. Then that final corner to round off what it is indeed a short lap here at Road Atlanta, but back in the 1970s, Edward, and I'm not quite sure if you're actually familiar with the story. Some of our viewers might be, but this track was owned by the Whittington brothers. Those brothers are quite infamous in motor racing history for, let's say, funding their racing team on dubious backgrounds. And it actually turns out that the Whittington brothers, as we're skipping into qualifying here, I'm just going to finish this anecdote anyways, they used that very long back straight, Edward, to smuggle in marijuana from South America and basically use Road Atlanta as a logistics station of sort as well, and that paid for their racing escapades throughout the 70s and 1980s as well, famously winning Le Mans one year with a Kramer Porsche, and with an empire, so to say, that came collapsing down in the early 1990s. Track going bankrupt under their ownership in 1993. and then it was picked up, you could say, or it was bought by Don Panas in 1996. From there on, he's made it his base of operations. He started the Petit Le Mans, and that's been running since, if I recall correctly, 1999. I might be mistaken on that one, but good little story, that one.
Yeah, that'd be good to know, obviously, about the history of this amazing race circuit. But we're all focused now on the here and now, as we're going to follow Matthew Forrest for his first qualifying lap. What can he do? This is going to be the benchmark for all others to chase here into the first corner. There's nothing more than probably a first sort of banker lap, I would imagine, for him to get through, make sure he has a valid time, get himself nice and high up the board, and then just have all those behind try and chase him down. He's also got, I think, one of his virtual racing compound teammates behind in the Ferrari. I think that could be difficult to see the number of either Pete Plastow or Nick McLaughlin there.
Yeah.
Oh,
we'll figure
whoever
out
it is,
now
they've
that
made a mistake into the wall, and I think that was Pete Plastow.
Pete Plastow with a big incident there, early days in qualifying, so he's gonna have a chance to recover from that and get his laps in nonetheless. But Pete Plastow, let's see what happened here, finding out, oh my word, just how tricky that curbing can be. I'll see if I can get a little bit of a better shot up. What I was sort of hoping for, but no. My apologies for the poor replay curation, if you will, in that situation. SDK, rather poor job, and that's rare. Usually we get some excellently timed replays. This one, for once, goes slightly off here. Matthew Forrest, first time set, 1:19.44, immediately bested by Eric Luke, the 1:19.15. But mind you, we saw practice times in the low 18s, so expect lap times to drop quite sharply.
Look at this, Eric Luke on the top. Oh, I do love that BMW. You know he has to. I might be a little bit biased because of my time in the SimRacer World BMW Trophy behind the wheel of this, but it's such a nice car. It feels just really fun to drive. I think iRacing have done a great job in modelling it, and obviously they've worked very closely with BMW. BMW worked closely with other areas in sim racing. I think is the replica wheel you can get from Fanatec of that BMW GT3 machine. So good to see more and more actual manufacturers in the real world of motorsport also getting involved in the virtual world of motorsport and making it a nice close partnership, because it's really come on leaps and bounds, hasn't it, Hasse? As we see all Lazarte getting very late on the brakes, but making it into the corner. This could be a good time for them.
Absolutely so. Speaking of cars that seem to go the funness of heart, this one is close to mine indeed. That sixth
Unfortunately,
gear
doesn't improve there, but it does sound nice, doesn't it?
It does, with that whine in the sixth gear. Incredible. It's more like a whale. And that, I think, is Anime Mercedes indeed, of Pedro Marimon Cladera, and I think we've had the story told of this livery before. It is, of course, a...
Yep, got on Miku Merc.
Exactly, the Super GT300 class Mercedes. Obviously, those of you who've been doing racing games, so to say, for some years now, will maybe remember some different Super GT cars back when they were called GT300 and GT500. Of course, they still are. It was back when they were called JT machines. Pardon me. That was quite different. Of course, GT3 machines are found all over the world, literally, and they have been spilling into Japanese GT racing as well. Of course, it's all part of keeping the costs of racing under control, trying to some formulas that manufacturers will be able to stick to in terms of in slightly greater numbers of their cars, which might turn down production costs for the privateer teams. Real life run these cars, well, many of them at least, because there are also factory operations. But anyway, that's Cladera and that Animamer. Oh, that might be a bit of a troublesome route through turn 5, but he manages to keep it going.
And I think Hasse, throughout all of this, we've been missing the battle up at the front because Eric Luke has gone on to pole position, but there was a time where Matthew Forrest was occupying that top spot. They've been trading times left, right, and centre, but it is Eric Luke with the advantage now. 900ths of a second to the good, nearly a 10th clear of Matthew Forrest, but what can Matthew do? He's got to come down the hill through the final corner now. Will this be an improvement for number 78, the current championship leader? Comes across the line, but does not improve. That's 1 minute 20.6. So not a quick time at all from Matthew Forrest there. Maybe opting to back out and try and find some clearer air perhaps, but he does have a Porsche up in front of him. Forrest there, mate. Do love the sight of more and more cars they were added to the mix, and you can see just how quick he is through the S's. Catches out the Porsche, who has to take evasive action. That was 18th place, I think, so that could be, who is it? It's Stuart Jacklin, actually, the privateer entrant there. Currently the 86th car in 18th place. Does have a nice livery though, doesn't it?
Absolutely, a classic indeed. One that's hasn't been hurt in any way by a modern iteration. Now here's Gary Waldron, another Porsche here, the 99 machine, and that's also a very nice with the green and orange, but I like it.
There's something about those sort of colour schemes, isn't it? The light blue and the orange that I'm not sure what it is, but it's just iconic in any sort of bit of machinery it's onto. But I think Gary Waldron turns into the corner, realises it's not going to work out for him, so pulls over onto, well,
Edward May. I'm sorry to talk over you, Edward May. That was a 10 out of 10 photo shot as he came in there. Look, that was absolutely beautiful. See if I can recall the. It's because he went down the escape road. I'm not even going to be able to. We had a message in chat, no image. I hope that's not a problem for you anymore, Federico. Have, at least to the best of my knowledge, no issues with the stream current time. So it might be, but let me know if there's any persistent issues. And as you said, Edward, we'll try to keep an eye on the top standings at the moment. It is very, very close indeed, within a 10th of a second for the additional front row.
Nice competitive, and finally someone's giving Matthew Forrest a run for his money. However, it is one of his teammates in the virtual racing compound colours, but Eric Luke, what can he manage in the BMW? Rolling into the pits now, and I think going to get a fresh set of boots on and then absolutely blitz it for the final 5 in this qualifying session. So beat Plastow as well, another virtual racing compound driver in the top 3. Nick McLaughlin, again a virtual racing compound driver, this time in the top 4. They've got a stranglehold on positions 1 through to 5 because Chris Roberts is also up there in the Porsche, so you can just see the quality there. What on earth is going on there? He just powers through into the wall. It just seems that he didn't bother using the brakes and went right through the back of a Mercedes. Hope that wasn't anything malicious involved, but I think Cody Steeg got a massive hit up the rear. I want to see that from a bit further back because Chris Roberts, for me, I'm not sure if he was just losing a bit of his cool or what happened there. Maybe his brakes didn't work, but that was... No, he just... What on earth was going on there?
It's a very good question indeed, and I don't think it's one I'm really in a sufficient to provide any sort of answer to, but I think we're better off with leaving such. That is a Stewart's decision indeed. Got Valdez Suarez Jr. in his Ferrari, the all-time participant of this series, the Brazilian. Certainly fun to watch when race day. Time hour of racing indeed. Here just over or just under 4 minutes on apologies on the clock for this qualifying session. Valdez Suarez currently 6th, and a driver at a set race 2 on line setup. We've seen, although to be fair on everything on iRacing setups, about it being still a good mix of cars in the top 10. Ferrari's in there, but a nice mix of the other manufacturers mixing it well, and that's a bit of a wild moment for Valdez Suarez. Almost loses it. That tricky turn 5 exit, and it's something we'll see more of, especially once drivers get more audacious during the race, and maybe even with an overtaking attempt there in turn 5. And I know being sent upon certainly is nice in that corner. Is going to make you very unpopular gentleman indeed.
Yeah, so it's all about who can come through. I think the first few laps nice and clean, because oftentimes these races are ones of attrition, and we do have that Apex Tech lovely Ford GT out on track now, Hasse.
The Spaceball LaFord, we brake for nobody, and on the wing it says ludicrous speed on the Ford GT car that hasn't been racing for a long time indeed. Nick, welcome to. Nice to have you racing as well. And the best of luck to you. What is to come in a few minutes? Virtual Racing Compound. You said it before, Edward. Nothing's changed so far. They have a stranglehold of which the likes I haven't really seen before. I think top 5 for one team. That is certainly dominance if ever I've seen anything like it. Luckily, though, we have never seen Virtual Racing Compound going any sort of team orders whatsoever. It's always hard racing, and when you see them, on the track, head to head, bumper to bumper, sort of sometimes forget they're actually teammates.
Yeah, and that's something that I think that they'll have to be aware of course, but we know that a lot of the times these Virtual Racing Compound drivers do race hard and fair with each other, which is seen as well. A car has been able to get up into the top 5, and that's Gaston Macaroni in the Mercedes for Virtual Racing, not Virtual Racing Compound, but Virtual Racing, doing a great job up the order. Do like the new Virtual Racing livery there.
Yeah, it's a good looking one. They've had some very tasty liveries throughout the season from summer's break, and sneaking into the top 5 indeed. And it could be a bit confusing with the Virtual Racing against Virtual Racing Compound. Timothy Vanderbroek here for stage 1, 7th on the grid for the time being, and he's just about gonna make another lap. See, there's 10 seconds before the flag drops.
I think he'll get across the line.
Well, he is. Gonna be one last
He will
lap.
be one of the final ones to do so.
Right on that one. Commander Young, certainly this is going to be his final lap to improve upon 13th place.
Hard onto the brakes, into the chicane, then comes Martin de Jong, rising up the crest before plunging back down again into the final corner. This is the last chance for Martin de Jong to improve in this qualifying session. What will it be as he crosses the timing line And he does go up this time into 11th place, just a few thousandths or hundredths rather shy of cracking into that top 10, but still a good effort late on in the session to improve his starting order by at least a couple of positions. Stuart Jacklin, a little bit of a mistake coming out of turn 7, but as he makes his way down this back straight, he'll be feeling that time loss all the way down into the chicane now. So going over to the right hand side of the circuit, trying to open the corner out as much as he can, hard onto the brakes, using all the ABS and then turning in nicely, trying to power out. I don't think this is going to be an improvement for Stuart Jacklin, but we'll be able to see as he comes across the line what he's able to do, and I think he realises not going to improve, so opts to take the run into pit entry. Dirk Brinksma as well, slow down the back straight, so he isn't likely to make any improvements in this qualifying session, but I think he is actually the final driver out on the circuit. So with that, qualifying will inevitably come to an end whenever iRacing decides the drivers have had enough time out there and are going to bring them back into the pits. You can see here Dirk Brinksma coming into the pits, so I reckon this qualifying session is about over and done with, and we can instead look forward, Hasse, to what is set to be a cracking return for the Sunday GT Masters.
Very, very much so. Let's see, we've got a grid order to throw up, I believe. There it is. Eric Luke on his debut, pole position for the 709, the American in the BMW for Virtual Racing Compound. A front 2-row lockout as we not quite the top 5 lockout with Gaston Macaroni there in 5th. But it's Matthew Forrest ahead of Pete Plastow, Nick McLaughlin, then Gaston Macaroni, and Chris Roberts in 6th place ahead of Timothy van der Broek and Valdir Suarez Jr. in 8th. Dirk Reski 9th ahead of Sandro Kappa in 10th. Then Martin de Jong 11th with Savino Melito, the Italian, in 12th place. Further down, find Mariano Lasarte in 13th ahead of Nicolas Chucato. It's Pedro Marimon Cladera in 15th ahead of Gaston Body 16th. Bruno Vinagre, the Portuguese for GT3 Bulls, in Luke Schneider for Rebel Racing in 18th ahead of Stuart Jacklin. Dirk Brinksma, P20 for him ahead of Stephen Orrell and Craig Thompson, 22nd there in the end. 7 seconds off. So, Fred, not too. Ben Delmans, 23, and Matt Sisler in 24th place there in the Ford GT. Nice to see. And rounding off, given the Mopaya, Cody Steek, Gary Waldron, Sandro Ors, Codinho. I think Codinho, not having set a time, we'll see if he can for the race. But nevertheless, the 29 car grid is going to make for plenty of excitement.
Oh yes, it will, Hasse, and we're going to be watching the cars make their way through a shorter pace lap. They'll only go through this final chicane before we see them all get up to racing speed. So won't expect the drivers to have too much time to warm up their tyres, get them into the perfect operating window. That could throw the spanner in the works, or certain drivers, maybe Eric, Luke, Matthew Forrest, could get caught up amongst each other. And from experience, Hasse, the BMW on cold tyres is actually kind of alright. It's a bit more worrying when you're in, say, the likes of the Lamborghini, when the tyres aren't in the right window. It is a very tricky car to handle, especially on the baseline setup. So Eric Luke will get the field up and moving. You can see now the lights go on and we go racing here, and he's got a big window to those behind him. You can see there Matthew Forrest under huge pressure from Pete Plastow, who's going to look down the inside into turn 1, but think better of it in the end. A bit of a blink there from Nick McLaughlin ahead of Gaston Macaroni. They make their way up the hill though into turn 3, and then down through the S's. They will plummet for the first time this race. 45 minutes on the clock. And we'll be watching all of them come past now. Cody Steeg and Rebel Racing, just making sure that he gets through the opening lap nice and safely. And to be fair, Hasse, touch wood, there hasn't been too many major dramas, which is good to see that the drivers through the summer break haven't gotten rusty.
Yeah, very much so. The other way around, it seems. Nicely strung out on the final corner approach there, and a clean run so far, it seems. Vander Kaffa has had a bit of an issue, and I think he is the only driver to have been off track here on the opening lap. And mind you, this track has a reputation of being a very chaotic race opener indeed. Here is Chris Roberts going to find his way up his inside of Valdir Suarez into the chicane. And he does so. The brakes on that 911 very, very good indeed. And Chris Roberts shows just how that's done, with Timothy Vanderbroek wanting a piece of the cake as well here, a piece of the pie. So turn one, not really the place to do it, especially not in these GT machines. And I think he's gonna find out almost the hard way as he enters too quickly, gets a foot on the left-hand curbing there. That could have been a very dramatic moment indeed for Timothy Vanderbroek. We've had a bit of an issue for a few drivers here. I might have cursed it, I'm afraid. Let's have a look at just what happened there for Sander Kaffer. Yes, that one incident, and that looks like cold tires to me, Edward.
Yeah, cold tires catching out Sander Kaffer there. Fortunate to see. And follow Dirk Brinksma as well, actually. Oh, just a little bit too eager on the throttle, that keeps it out of the wall, loses a few positions. Thankfully, no damage done to the car, just only to his pride.
Indeed. The poetry of Edward May is we've had the last of our opening Kinder Egg of incidents here for Nuno Viagre, who gets onto the grass there of the exit of turn one. That's very dangerous indeed, with the outside wall looming ever larger and having to rejoin in, manages to do so very, very well here and actually keeps it under control all the way through. That is nicely done. Eric Luke is leading Matthew Forrest. There's a bit of a gap there, but look at this. Gaston Macaroni's made up two places already. Pardon me, and that is certainly not bad at all. And I think we might have the end of luck for a few drivers further down the field. I saw some names tumbling down the order out of the corner of my eye. I'll do our best to catch up. Might be Chris Roberts involved here. It certainly is. He's touched the wall and he's got a big one from behind as well. And that is going to be a major incident. Sort of in the midfield, I'm afraid. I couldn't catch anything earlier.
That's Dirk Reski, I think, in the BMW that might have hit him first. I'm not sure who came in after the fact, but there was a second impact onto Chris Roberts after the initial moment.
There was
turn 5 there.
At Nuno Viagre, another problem here. Come to a complete halt here as the Ferrari gets loose right into the wall, and that is major damage. So even though we had a fairly clean lap 1 here at Road Atlanta, things have really been heating up ever since. And Eric Luke, Matthew Forrest running away with it. It's a tight battle for third here with Macaroni, Nick McLaughlin, and Pete Plastow. Valdir Suarez Jr. trying to tag along the rear end of this trio. Further down, we have those fights throughout the field. Here is Luke Schneider in 10th place. His Porsche 911, the Rebel Racing team. Points here.
So Luke up in 10th place, trying to close into Nicholas Cacato and Alfredo Lazarte, both Virtua Racing drivers. So they were trying to work together, of course, and maybe help each other out. And see, though, that Alfredo Lazare's got a good drive out of a lot of the corners. I think the Porsche seems to be quite good at accelerating its way through, whereas on the way into the corners, that's where the Audi starts to come into its own. We've got Stephen Orell as well, trying to find a way through on Timo Paya, the lone Finnish entrant of this very global series. Drivers from all across the world, nearly every single continent, I think, being represented here. Just missing any Asian drivers, and then I think we've got every single continent represented.
We haven't seen an African driver in the series yet.
Oh yes, as well. Yeah.
But yeah, indeed, we are far and about. There's nothing to do but much here. Stephen Orrell does get past on Timo Paya. Up ahead, Gaston Macaroni gets a little bit of breathing space ahead of Nick McLaughlin, who then gets Pete Plastow very, very closely, and might actually be an attempt. They come down to chicane, a little too far back. Oh, but when Nick McLaughlin's gonna make mistakes like that, that might open the door here.
He's trying to find a way through Pete Plastow, and Nick can't afford many more mistakes than that, because he's going to be holding up his teammate and allowing maybe one of his rivals, Gaston Macaroni, to have some good pace up in third place. And it's good to see Gaston having a good, consistent run of things. That Mercedes, I think earlier on in the season, wasn't the car to be in, but changes to our racing course in the summer break might have allowed that car to start to come into its own a little bit. You're seeing more and more Mercedes being used as Dirk Brinksma almost getting collected there, staying well out of the way of all of the other drivers that will pass him by now. It's always very scary and always very difficult to get that corner right. As you can see, a little bit of a twitch there from the Porsche, but it's actually going to allow him to try and find a way around the outside. Yes, what a move that was. Does he ever shoot it? No, he doesn't. Cracking stuff to get through there by the driver of the Porsche. We're going to see here Luke Schneider just absolutely send it around the outside.
Fantastic move indeed. Fires quite a bit of guts to pull off that one. Those Kokatsu doing very well to leave enough space for him to go around the outside as well. That has to be said. Always risky, but nice one indeed. Spectacular is what we want to see. It's stringing out ever so slightly. Gaston Macaroni there holding on to third place. McLaughlin passed out, didn't get better of the Canadian ahead of him, so it's still stat quo. Sander Kaffa is nursing an injured Ferrari, and yet he's bringing the heat to Timo Paya at the moment. It's Gordino ahead of these two. Further up, Craig Thompson. Got Stuart Jacklin for company in the Golf Porsche.
Stuart Jacklin, he's trying to find a way through, isn't he? But there's no windows opening yet. He just needs to make sure he gets good run this time out of this right-hander, and then can get onto the back of the 27 of Craig Thompson. But again, it's that corner which always seems to be a bit difficult for him to get to grips with, and as we'll shift away from that battle, we can have a look at another one. The gap still under second. There's all a very, very battered and bruised Dirk Reski going for a move on another Dirk. This is Brinksma, who's dropped back down into 25th position.
Two namesakes there, grabbing it out for the positions of the heartbroken at this time of the race here. 10 minutes in, got another 35 to go of this race. Mind you, still a pit stop to go. Here's Craig Thompson, gets all kinds of out of shape in turn one, and he's gonna head straight for the soft barrier, and that damage could be considerable, though the barrier doesn't pack that much of a punch, but it was considerable speed, and you can see how that car is crabbing. That's gonna be a tow straight to the pit line, and I'm afraid, well, the immediate end of the race for Craig Thompson.
Yeah, it's we're gonna have a look here at Craig Thompson's just mistake. Does he just overcook it? Yeah, carries a bit too much speed into there, and then the rear gets loose. He tries to correct it, but in doing so, when the front starts to grip up and bite, sends him into the wall. And that's the thing about the Porsche, is having all of that weight towards the rear end means that the car can be a little bit unbalanced at times, and as soon as it grips up, it acts a little bit differently to obviously those cars with the engines in the front. It's the difficult thing to get used to, of course, with a new car being put on.
Oh, here goes Plastow! sorry, I'm sorry, Edward, but we had action at the front end of affairs here with Pete Plastow finally getting the pass done here on Nick McLaughlin, and I think McLaughlin has had a little bit of an issue here because look at Macaroni, he was so close all of a sudden. He got all kinds of out of shape there. That of course opens the door for another driver to be the lucky one in that sense and get past on his teammate, and Macaroni got away with his slow run out of the chicane from before. And oh well, we just about caught that. These two still very close to one another, and further down here is Gaston Bordi, who's in 12th place behind Cladera at the moment. Very close to one another. Both of them just ahead here of Samino Medina.
Yeah, so I'm more interested in the fight that's ahead of Savino Melillo, perhaps, because look at this. Gaston Bordi going for a move on Cladera into the chicane. He's going to have just about an overlap, and he's going to send it into the corner. And in the background, Savino Melillo overcooks it slightly and runs off into the gravel. Oh, and the car swapped ends, so he has to wait an age, let all of the others by. Can't rejoin the track safely in that manner. So as we saw Cladera haven't moved on him, he's going to try and do it one back, and he's going to send it into the first corner. There's contact between the pair of them, but Cladera didn't really send it in too aggressively. He just had the inside, and I think with my money, Gaston Bordi turned into the corner, but Cladera was occupying that space, and they just banged doors. Neither one coming off too badly there, so hopefully we don't see any lasting damage dealt. But this is what happened to Savino Melillo coming into the corner. Oh, and does he just go a little bit? Yeah, he goes off of the track to avoid the Mercedes, and then the car just swaps ends and it stops lovely in the gravel. But not lovely for him because while he might be out of harm's way, he's had to watch the entire world go by, and he's found himself dropping back. And oh my word, as for what we were saying about how clean the start of the race has been, it's been pandemonium here at the, well, just after 10 minutes, because look at that, Sven Dahlman sending it into the left-hander, but contacting, I believe, was that who that was, potentially Stuart Jacklin. Yes, yeah, it was Stuart with damage, trying to get out of the way, but actually, from my money, that was Sven Dahlman's car that was already out of shape and then just snaps into the side. We're going to see maybe if we can get an on board for you, potentially, Hasse, as there's definitely more damage done to Gaston Bordi's car, but he's been able to get through, so it's all been kicking off. Could we maybe have to have a look at that?
Yeah, certainly.
Sven Dahlman's, because I want to know what on earth happened there, because it looked like the car already lost it before the impact.
One of those that leaves you guessing, because it doesn't really.
It's become live, and look at this.
Another dramatic moment here at turn 5, as that's Gaston Bordi almost losing it, and there comes back through there. Oh my word, he actually slides much more. Do they touch in that situation?
I don't think they touch, but it is very
he just skips over the curb.
Too much curb.
And he catches it over the grass. That's amazing. Gaston Bordi, save of the day to keep that pointing in the right direction and just somewhat in control.
I think Gaston probably would have preferred to have not had this mistake in the first place, but you're right, it was good ability to collect the car back under his control, as we see Van der Broek trying to get up behind Matt Sisela in the 93. Spaceballs the Ford, and he is going at a particularly ludicrous speed, especially for the very, well, I think it'd be fair to say an uncompetitive Ford GT. He's doing wonders for it.
He's gained 10 positions so far. We're not even halfway into the race, so he could be looking at a top 10 position by the end of it, as you can be in the American. Seems to be quite proficient here at Road Atlanta, and it is a special track indeed. Now these two still going at it, and I think this battle is far from over yet. I think it's going to be a gift that keeps on giving, and indeed, Greg, it is madness at the moment, but it is to be expected with the Road Atlanta and GT3s. There are so many places on this track that just kind of looks like an opening, and when you try to take the corner 2 cars wide, doesn't really work out that way. So we've had an issue here for Jose Godinho, the Portuguese. That's in turn 5 as well. The Audi just slowly comes around. And then I think there was a problem for Macaroni as well. And that's from 3rd place. And he's way down the order. And I wonder what happened here. He gets that contact and he's in the wall. And he flips. And he flips. And he flips. And he keeps on flipping. And there's not much Mercedes left at the end of that. Gaston Macaroni. How unlucky are you actually allowed to be? The incident. Well, I didn't actually see what happened here, and these two still going at it when we come back.
Oh my word.
And Greg, I think you
hope that Gaston was not in VR, because that would have been awful. Or even if that it was a motion rig, he'd probably, you know, be out his front door by now, the rig jarring and spinning him around.
Yeah, I think that would have been one to remember. Look, that is, I think, him already having lost position there, and is that McLaughlin he makes contact with. There's a bit of a jitter of the Ferrari as he touches the curb, I think. And the cars behind will be happy that he's not rolling to the other side all of a sudden. But let's see if we can get a better shot at what happens here. McLaughlin gets a good run from the chicane. And into the corner they go. We'll take this rather slowly just to make sure. You can see how Nick McLaughlin gets a very shallow line in. Then touches the curb. Little bit of a bounce there. But at the same time, the Mercedes has... Yeah, I'm just about to say the Mercedes has so much track to his left that he could have utilized in that situation to stay clear of Nick McLaughlin. And while it looks like he's bouncing, the car doesn't actually travel across, at least not as far as I could see. So, Greg the Madness continues here at Road Atlanta. Is round 8 of the Sunday GT Masters, proudly presented by SimracerCoin and Driver61. Got Timothy Vanderbroek trying to fight his way up through the field. Here has been another position gain for Matt Sisseler in the Apex check for GT. He's hunting down another compatriot up ahead of him. That's Cody Steek in the AMG Mercedes. Of course, another American leading this race and still leading this race, but by, well, 0.3 seconds. You can see Matthew Ford, there in the background. Very much booming and very much ready to pounce on any mistake.
Yeah, and
up ahead.
I've been having a look at the times, Hasse, and they've been chopping and changing every time. When one driver goes faster, the next replies right back. 2/10 in the favour of Matthew Forrest last time by, so he's getting a little bit closer to Eric Luke up ahead, but I think they're just trying to at least manage this early phase of the race, because there is, of course, a pit stop still to come. We'd expect them in maybe at the, well, any time after, I think 25 minutes is a likely period for drivers to make their pit stop, but who knows, Hasse, they might try and do something early, maybe upset the rhythm, go for an undercut, or go as late as they can and see if having a slight overcut might help.
A driver like Timothy Vanderbroek, you'd have to wonder if that pit stop would not make sense to make right now, and he might just be able to make a little bit of time up, but he knows better than everyone how much time he's losing if he's all by himself, you could say, without a slipstream ahead of him. Now Gaston Macaroni having dropped down the order. Martin de Jong, the lead Revell racing car at the moment. We haven't seen much of him. He started down in 18th place, or in 11th place, pardon me, and he's got 6 positions from the start of the race now as we're approaching the halfway marker. Right ahead of Valdez Suarez at the moment, with Mariano Lasarte ahead of Luke Schneider, who's also had a good race so far here, up into 8th place now. Gained 10 places starting 18th. And there are a good few cars here now creeping into the top 10. Was approaching this in a good manner indeed. Seems always attritional. Was once asked, oh, why is the Petit Le Mans not 12 or even 24 hours? How is a Petit Le Mans only 10 hours to go try do the race. It's it's pretty damn hard. And mind you, this sort of race, but with 3 classes of cars on track at the same time, all racing another while not really racing one another and all that stuff. Interesting, to say the least. Matt Sissler is actually catching up to Cody Steak now, and he's also been caught up to by Timothy Vanderbroek at the same time. Which means we have a 3-way battle opening up here for 12th place.
Cody Steak might be starting to feel the pressure a little bit, but the straight line speed is definitely there for him at the moment. So, working in his favour, the Mercedes, just the grunt of that V8 right up the front of that car is helping him to no end. However, look at this. Like you mentioned, Sizzler is closing in and could look to make a move sooner rather than later. Maybe trying to see if he can get through before the pit stops and get track position, because look at that through the first corner. He is absolutely flying. It seems to me that this Ford is really strong on sort of the corners, whereas maybe it's not something that's favouring the likes of the Mercedes, but down through the S's, that's all of a sudden when the BMW comes into its own. So you're seeing the different strengths of each of the cars coming through, and it's all about the drivers to try and make the difference count for them as best they can. Is through the right-hander. Such a wonderful corner there. The camber really helps you to carry speed in, but you've got to slow it down nice and quickly for that right-hander, which is so crucial coming onto this back straight. And probably saw Vanderbroek, he got a good run, as did Cody Steak. Sizzler in the middle might start to struggle, but he's right up there. He's so close from an account of just how good the rest of that app was, so that he can maybe try and send a move now into the chicane. He needs to be late and committed on the brakes. Will he go for it? Or is Cody Steak going to hold on? Cody Steak holds on for the moment. And they don't change positions at all, but they're looking very racy at the moment, aren't they, Hasse? And if I was Timothy Vanderbroek, I'll be coming into the pits now, getting clear air, not getting caught up in this battle and slowing myself down.
Yeah, it's a good point. Good point, but they just want to stretch it as far as possible here. Another send. Oh, turn 1. That Ford GT looks very, very competitive there through the final sector, and through turn 1 is really where it seems to make up time. This time around, getting a good run on the AMG ahead into the SS. Cody Steak having to, he's not blocking, he's showing the car behind that he's not gonna accept any real sense there, but that might be a send coming from the BMW. They're up the inside. There is Timothy Vanderbroek. And into the hairpin. That's going to be hard to defend. I think that is deal done, unless the run is so much better for Matt Sissler that he can actually get a run back. That was a finely timed move from Timothy Vanderbroek.
Yeah, good little move that. Right down the inside, nice and committed. Then he just kept the inside line and carried it through. Just really good way to overtake there, nice and clean. You can't really say much more than that for Timothy Vanderbroek. Nice and committed, and we are seeing the first of the drivers coming into the pits as well. Schneider goes through and gets a position as Lazarte comes in, and also I can tell you that Gaston Bordy is also in the pits with the pair of them stopping in their pit boxes, and it's a very quick stop from Lazarte, so he's up and running. Like a very, very short stop from Lazarte, actually.
For 15 seconds, 14 and a half in the pit cruise, but not going to be...
Well, essentially that should be alright there.
Let's see what happens here. Vanderbroek.
I might make a mistake there. Oop.
And another look there up the inside of Cody Steak. And Timothy Vanderbroek certainly on the warpath here, but a gentlemanly one indeed. He is like he's under full control, even though that BMW does have a bit of front end damage. We're hoping that doesn't affect him too much. That's going to be Danilo coming back here. Pete Plastow's into the pit now, so the first one of the front runners to pit in. Oh, and what's happened here? Eric Luke's in the wall!
Oh my word!
From the race lead, and that's absolutely incredible. It's Bori up ahead of him, maybe getting a little bit in the way, and he slides around and he's hardly just creeps into the wall, so there's not going to be a lot of damage, but obviously it's going to be a huge problem for him. He's fallen down the order. He's down into 3rd place now. He'll be open to attack from Martin de Jong, and who, by the way, is very open to attack himself from Valdez Suarez Jr. at the moment. We got more pit stops coming up here with Timothy van der Broek coming in. And what has happened to Timothy van der Broek? He's had a huge accident, I'm afraid. But let's see what happened here, Edward.
Yeah, I see. Oh, this is up through the S's, and he just clatters it into the wall. A very heavy impact there. Oh dear, and that could be a race-ending incident because there's no fast repairs for all the drivers here. So, if you get damage, unfortunately, that's your lot. We see Eric Luke coming into the pits now. Lost a lot of time there to Matthew Forrest and Nick McLaughlin, so this could really, really hurt his chances of getting a win on his debut. But let's not let that take away from the fact that the pace he's shown is very good, and he could still be on track for a podium, you know.
This is Peter Plastow from 1 lap ago as well, and he heads directly for that tire barrier. Let's see if we can get a better look at that angle. I want to see just what happened to him. Oh, that's gonna be a heavy one indeed. Nose on. A bad angle for Pete Plastow. Valdez Suarez is making gains at the moment. He's putting on the pressure. The boys are cheering in Brazil for Valdez Suarez, and he's picking up that battle between himself and Martin de Jong. Martin de Jong currently sitting 3rd in the championship standings, so he'll be on the hunt for all the points he can get here. Matthew Forrest now pitting in. Have to wonder if we're not going to see the rest of them coming in very, very shortly. Surprised if that is not the case.
Martin de Jong comes in, as does basically the entire rest of the field. Matthew Forrest, Nick McLaughlin, and also Valdez Suarez Jr. all making their way through into pit lanes. And now our eyes will, of course, likely shift to where lights of Nicholas Cacato will do. He'll come through. Sisola as well will come through, as he's yet to pit. And then Eric Luke, what can he manage as we see lots of the pit? Matthew Forrest on his way out, well, will be the net lead of the race.
Yeah, indeed. Oh, look at this. Valdez Suarez is going to get out. Oh, that's going to be very close to Eric Luke. Oh, and Eric Luke gets the touch. And I'm afraid that things have gone from bad to worse from the pole sitter here. Turn 3. We know this is a very tricky one indeed, Edward. I don't really know if... I don't think there's a little bit of a net code.
There wasn't really much contact, but I think even without the net code, there would have been contact after the fact, because you can see the angle of both of those cars making their way through the corner. There was going to be contact even without the net code, but it's such a heartbreaking way for, well, Luke's race to go the way it has, hasn't it? After such a promising start, obviously qualifying, putting it on pole position ahead of a very quick Matthew Forrest. Hopefully the chance of a open setup race will at least give him some comfort in the future, as we see Stephen Orrell having a mistake, and he's trying to keep the car stopped so he doesn't get hit. However, a car comes by and gives him a tap anyway, just for good measure, and we'll see. Gets it. Bit of a mistake. He sees several cars up and coming, and it is unfortunately Mariana Alfredo Lazarte.
That is a blind corner, always tricky to deal with. Here comes... Oh, that's Valdez Suarez on the outside of... Well, that's rather gutsy. I think we've had a pass on... And that's on Gaston Bori from Melillo, who actually goes around there, does he? Oh, for a very short moment indeed. That's going to be all, and I think we've had an issue for Cladero. Gets a touch here. Yes, he does, and goes around. Another Ferrari in the wall as well.
And that looks like potentially engine damage for the Mercedes. There you could see a little bit of smoke coming out as Pedro was stationary off of the final corner. We'll have a look here. The car very, very out of shape as there's door banging contact into the wall. Heavy, heavy hit. And yep, that engine is unfortunately toast.
So now Martin de Jong is lining up a counter-attack on Valdez Suarez Jr. and gets it done into the chicane, which means Martin de Jong back up into fourth place now, Valdez Suarez Jr. Pete Plastow, after his incident, is 5th ahead of Luke Schneider, Nicolas Cucato, and then Matt Sisseler in the number 93 Apex Tech Ford GT, 8th place at the moment. Theras had a nightmare of a race over the last few minutes here. This battle heating up here. Martin de Jong will be happy to have a bit of clean air ahead. And what a hefty 15 minutes in the middle block of the race here, Edward, where it's been fast-paced to a point where it's been hard to keep up, I think.
Yeah, it has been a little bit chaotic, hasn't it? The action has definitely not slowed down one bit throughout this race. And you know what? Even if some of the cars might be in the pits, they might be out of the running. I can see several cars actually out of the running. But this circuit is always one where it is very difficult to get through, and it's high attrition. You can see there a replay of what happened to Eric Luke, and I think, yeah, so that was going to be contact even without the net code, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think it's hard for Valdez Suarez to do anything in that situation. On the inside, he gives as much space as he can. That turn 3 being one of those places where very, very hard to fit two cars. They're side by side. I think there's been a little bit of contact up ahead there as well. Or something happened through that BMW. Wonder just what that was. So watching this night three-way battle, approaching the final 10 minutes of racing, and Luther Hannibrook tells us he had a stuck throttle that led to his incident. It did look rather bizarre, so a bizarre explanation to a bizarre incident as well. Very, very unlucky. Struggling to get past the fort might be a result of kind of a bit of aero damage going along here. Big Luke is hitting the pits. Back to running here, so he's aiming to at least complete the race. But having been on pole, no sort of consolation, is it? I don't really think he's going to be too happy with how this race has gone here tonight.
But this is going to be a bit more of an experience building round. I think from first time in the championship, he's going to be able to maybe be a little bit further down the order, but he's going to find out what it's like racing with other drivers, maybe that aren't on the same pace of him. And of course, you learn how to pass nice and clean in. It's just a good experience, I think, being in a league race for as long as you can for your debut. And you do pick up a lot as the season goes on, as you have more and more rounds of the championship under your belt. I know that all too well. Unfortunately, though, Hasse Rømer seems to do well at the start of a championship and then unfortunately trail off.
I guess it's also there's a lot of dynamics there also, which tracks are put at which end. Always hard to be the one that fights all the way through, and consistency, not only over the course of a single race, but over the course of a season, is just very, very hard to achieve. To master a wild variety of tracks that in turn sort of need different driving styles to gain the most of the cars. So it's never easy, and I think we see the same types of drivers often here at the front throughout the series, and And I just realized I made you sound like one of those type of drivers that just pop up at the beginning and then sort of fade away. And I'm really sorry. It wasn't what I really meant to do at all. But
that's okay, Hasse. I'll remember that next time I see you behind the wheel.
Not to be
No,
slamming.
it's fine, Hasse.
I'll
I'll store that one away. I'll remember it. I've seen you drive an LMP2 car, but I'll not bring up that.
Dare I say
I'm just joshing with you, Hasse, but it's good to sort of come at this with a bit of experience, I think, isn't it?
yeah, very much so. And that's
you know what it's like to drive in league races and get through, and it's very tricky, I think, when you're actually in the car, and it's a lot easier for us outside of the box to say, oh, you should do this, you should do that, but in reality, it is very difficult, I think, when you come into a new series.
It is. It always is, and that's a point where I think you have a bit more experience than me, actually, in terms of racing, and just how it is, for instance, with the SRW BMW trophy, and just how hard and competitive the racing was, while still being mostly fair. It was certainly no gifts given, no ever, and the racing takes shape thereafter as well. Sometimes Hasse Suarez sitting 5th at the moment, Pete Plastow 4th, and 3rd up ahead is Martin Young with just about enough cushion for him to sort of feel safe. And I realize, Edward, by having said what we're gonna have to arrange the SRW commentators going to really settle the score between all of us.
Yeah, we'll love to see who's going to come out on top. I'm not sure tomorrow. I mean, I'll definitely be worrying about Dan Handover. He's pretty quick, and obviously Chaz Drake. If we put in an MX-5, I think from his performances in the Sunday drivers, he'd probably clear most of us out as well. So we need to be able to make sure we can keep it. Most of it, maybe keep Chaz out of the MX-5, and maybe keep you out of an LMP2. We'll see, though, won't we? We'll find out what we can do.
For fairness' sake, what we could do would go for something like street stock dirt version. Something like that on a dirt oval. That would certainly be something most of us
I'll
is
be at
fairly
a big disadvantage.
with.
I've never driven dirt ovals in iRacing.
Neither have I, so that makes two of us. It would be quite fun indeed. Oh, Plastow gaining quite a lot on Martin de Jong here. I think Pete Plastow's done quite a better job here of keeping his tires alive. He's flying up on the Audi here, and we're well into the final 10 minutes of the race. Pete Plastow missing his front bonnet, but still able to really put on the pressure there to the rear end of the Audi ahead. And we've seen it before, not only this season, but last season as well, with the Ferrari being able to just nurse the tires. Slightly different, you can see the Audi just hanging in there behind, that's the vegan Mercedes of Stephen Orrell. And Valdez Suarez hopes to get through quickly as well, but is the hot battle going on right here for third place at the moment. Matthew Forrest looking good to take another win here at Road Atlanta ahead of Nick McLaughlin, but right now everything's still open. Who's going to get that third place on the podium?
This, though, is going to be a good fight, I reckon, between Martin de Jong and Pete Plastow's. And, of course, in the background, look who's there to pick up the pieces should these two come to blows. Valdez Suarez Jr., the Brazilian, with a lot of support in the chat, I have to say. He's definitely a fan favourite. But can he use that energy that he's getting from all the supporters here on SimRacers World TV in the chat to get up close and get involved in this fight in the closing stages? Just having a look at some of the times being set at the moment, and he's there or thereabouts on pace with those in front. It's just if he can close that gap, he's going to be a real contender. We'll have to hope, I think, though, that Pete Plastow's will maybe send a move at some stage and get the battling going to slow down Martin de Jong up ahead.
Oh no, we've had a problem for Savino Melillo. It's been a lengthy excursion, I'm afraid. There we go. Correct replay. Looks to be crabbing already at this point. I have to wonder just what happened to Melillo there.
Nasty hit that into the wall there. Missing the soft tyres, hitting the concrete. That's going to be a lot of damage there.
Looked a little weird. Looked like the car was already crabbing quite significantly in the way it moved across the track there all of a sudden. But and something that gave up.
Savino Melillo was actually pulled into the pits, Hasse, so that is probably raced over from all of that damage, just having a little bit too much, unfortunately, for the number 12. And that does mean that I think the number of drivers that might take the checker flag could be as small as 16, you know, which is definitely a sign that this race is a tricky one to get to grips with for the drivers. And you often find that the case, don't you, at Road Atlanta? It's such a hard demanding circuit.
It is. It really is one of the hardest tracks around. And just in terms, not maybe in terms of which track is hardest to just get your car around quickly if you're the only driver on track. But once there's a field of cars to contend with, the difficulty level at Road Atlanta, so to say, it's certainly brings requires immense concentration, and it's also I mentioned it before as well, the decisiveness needed here is well, it requires overtaking to be almost borderline bullying the other car to make it happen in the first place, if it's not into the chicane, that is. Turn 1 can be done, but we've also seen examples that, for instance, here in Turn 5, that is not really the place to get it. Though turns both 6 and 7 actually does present a bit of an opportunity as well. Pete Plastow looking at that podium position right in front of him here. 3 minutes left to race here. So that'll most probably be 2 more laps for the rest of them here. A little bit of an off track for Luke Schneider. Let's hope that's just been a small one indeed. Oh, does he manage to catch that one? If he does, yes he does. Could have been going much worse for him.
This Pete Plastow just isn't able to find a way through on Martin de Jong, and I have to admit, I was a little bit surprised by Martin de Jong's qualifying performance, but he's really brought it back in the race, hasn't he, Hasse? Up 8 positions since the start. Cracking drive from the Dutchman, and he could be upsetting the rhythm here for Virtual Racing Compound and being the party people, because they want to have all 3 of their drivers, or at least all 3 of the podium drivers, being Virtual Racing Compound drivers. They've got Matthew Forrest, they've got Nick McLaughlin, but at the moment Pete Plastow isn't able to join them because Martin de Jong is just trying to keep that grip tighter and tighter every single lap, and it's working out for him. He's got a good handle at the moment on his Audi, and as we're going to be coming into, I think, the final lap very shortly, it's going to take something quite special, I think, from Pete Plastow to try and take this from Martin.
I think he's just lacking the top speed. That might be the consequence of the damage he's carrying as well. Helping his aerodynamics being out of front bonnet. That situation, I think it's going to be much harder. And it,
well, Matthew Forrest has just come across the line to start the final lap.
There's going to be one more lap. Final lap of the race. Final few chances for Pete Plastow to make it happen. It's half a second to close. The white flag is out. One more lap to complete. It's been an eventful one. Matthew Forrest, dare I say, flying almost under the radar. He kept the pressure on Eric Luke for all that time, himself within a second and a half, until fateful few laps there for Eric Luke as well, who with some bad luck as well. But you can just see Plastow in the middle sector here. He really closes that gap, and he does so efficiently. But as you said before, Edward, and once they start to pick up speed, be able to close in just quite enough to be there. Let's see, this time down towards the chicane. It's going to be the last real shot for him to get onto the podium. And I think we've had Matthew Forrest across the line. We have indeed, as he takes, well, there it is. across the line and a race win for the Brit, for the championship leader. Grabbing another one. Nick McLaughlin's going to be second. There he is, and it's going to be Martin de Jong for all it looks like here, intents and purposes. I think he's going to hold on to it. Brilliant driving by the Dutchman, who started 11th. He's going to finish 3rd and on the podium. Very well driven, almost, for Pete Plastow. I think they enjoyed that battle as well. Luke Schneider, by the way, he comes from 18th on the grid here to finishing 5th. That is a very, very strong drive from him as well.
Cracking stuff there from Luke Schneider and, of course, Revel Racing. Giving the new team a good outing there, good performance. Unfortunately, what on earth happened to Valdez Suarez? Right at the end there, because he was in really 5th place in those final few moments. And Hasse, did we catch what happened to him?
I think Luke Schneider came past. That was pit lanes, and then Nicolas Cocato has gone past him. That was one of them. The pit
Did he short fuel it? Perhaps did he have to go into the pits
to
to get some fuel?
Yes.
You can see him just there. Actually, yeah, Hasse, you see him in the pit lane.
Yeah.
He misfueled it.
Oh
No.
Well, that explains a very attritional race there. Matt Sissel in the Ford GT gets it into the top 10. Gets 8th on the day. Ludicrous speed, indeed.
Ludicrous for a Ford, definitely. That's a very good effort to get in the top 10. That from Sissler there. In absolutely scintillating form. Xander Kaffer as well, having a good show. But we have the confirmed finishing results here on your screens. And round 8, big setup going the way of Matthew Forrest there for Virtual Racing Compound Championship leader, extending his advantage over the rest with that performance. Nick McLaughlin coming through for a hard-fought 2nd place, ahead of Martin de Jong for Revel Racing, their first podium as Revel Racing. Good to see Martin doing a good job. Ahead of Virtual Racing Compound, Pete Plastow wasn't able to get through in those closing stages, but still gave a good account of himself with a 4th place finish. Luke Schneider there, 5th place for Revel Racing, ahead of Nicolas Cocato, and a misjudgment on the fuel from Valdez Suarez Jr. saw him drop back from 5th down into 7th, but still finishing inside the top 10. A great drive from 31. Matt Sissler on his debut in the Ford GT. Rapex Tech, ludicrous speed indeed, getting his car up into 8th place come the end of the race. Cracking drive from him. Ahead of Sander Kaffer and Gaston Bory for Virtual Racing, who rounds out the top 10. Then we come down to Dirk Reski, who finished 1 lap down there in 11th place. Cody Steeg 12th. Jose Godinho 13th, ahead of the Finnish Timo Paier, with Eric Luke for Virtual Racing Compound able to take the checkered flag, but finishing 2 laps down after what was a impressive qualifying and impressive first half of the race, but it all just came undone rather unfortunately for him there. So 15th place is where he'll finish, but expect bigger and better things from him in the future. Stephen Orell also taking the checkered flag there for DIS Racing. And then some of the drivers that didn't take the checkered flag classed as, well, I will guess to be non-finishers, as Salvino Melillo, Pedro Cladera, Mariano Lazate, Timothy van der Broek, Sando Orsini, Nuno Vinagre, Gaston Macaroni, Sven Dalemans, Stuart Jackman, Dak Brinksma, Craig Thompson, Gary Waldron, and Chris Roberts. So quite a severe attrition rate, unfortunately, to see, Hasse, but this circuit is one that you'd expect to be having a few casualties on, but I'll tell you what, big credits to all those who finished, especially this man, Matthew Forrest. What a drive from him, Hasse, and actually I can see he's lining up in the interview waiting room to have a word with you now.
Absolutely so. We've got Matthew Forrest coming in with us right about now. Matthew, welcome to the booth. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us here post-race. And what an attritional one in the end. I'm thinking it must have been pretty hefty out there.
Yeah, I am very sweaty as I am. It is. It was a very hard race. To be honest, I'm lucky to win it. Eric should have won that race. He was unfortunate to spin out. Well, I've taken advantage of that. Pete spun out behind me. Nick and Martin have picked up points, so it's good for me since I'm not here next week for the next race.
Indeed, looking at a points lead that's getting more and more comfortable, dare you say, at this halfway point. Of course, missing a round, it's probably not going to help that, but of course, still in a very good position to take the fight for points and for the championship in the end here through the second half of the season.
Yeah, I mean, Pete's obviously my closest rival in the table, and he came fourth today, so I extended that lead. As I say, I'm not here next race, so he's got to do well at Road America in 2 weeks' time. I'll be watching the Formula One, so in Spa, so he might as well enjoy it.
And the car, the track, and the fixed setups as well. How did that all come together for you today in the Lamborghini?
I quite like the baseline in the Lambo, but this track, it's got some horrible bumps. If you catch it wrong, especially at turns 5, I think it is, and 6, if you catch those wrong, you're just off in the track. You lose 15, 16 seconds. So the track itself, I mean, I think it suits the Ferrari and the BMW a little bit more. The Lambo doesn't like bumps in baseline setup.
That makes the performance all the more incredible, Matthew. Congratulations on a great win, another great win, the extension. We hope to see you back in the booth post-race after your race break.
Yes, thank you.
So that's race winner Matthew Forrest. We're going to go over to Edward, who's going to be in with his teammate, that is, of course, the Canadian Nick.
Yes, Nick McLaughlin joins us in the comms box, and that was a tricky track, a tricky race from you, but still to come through with a P2. You've got to be chuffed with that.
Oh, pretty lucky, if I'm being honest. I didn't really have the same pace as these lead guys. But yeah, a couple murders. Obviously, I need to extend the deepest apologies to Gaston. Pretty ended his race there. I was not happy about that. He should have been up there with us.
Yeah, it's obviously unfortunate some of those races went, but of course you say you got lucky. I think sometimes you have to make your own luck at times, and especially on a circuit such as Road Atlanta. What is it like just trying to drive through this 45 minutes flat out?
Road Atlanta historically and I have not got along great, so I'm just happy to kind of make it to the end, really. It was a good race, though. It was a lot of fun. The fixed setups are certainly a challenge to go around, but they've done a good job with the setups this year. They feel very stable.
Yeah, and of course, when it comes to the setup discussion, we come into the next round at, I believe, Road America with an open setup. Is that going to be something where you can expect maybe to challenge some of your teammates maybe and get a race victory?
That would be nice. The open setups, I've been working with the setup on this Ferrari a lot more lately. I've been able to dial it in a bit, but I think between Pete and Pete has always been very favorable around Road America. So hopefully, if I can stick with him, I'll be real pleased.
Yeah, definitely, and of course, relative newcomer as well, Eric Luke to the virtual racing compound fold. At least this is the first time we've seen him. What are you expecting from him, of course, coming into this next round? Is that something you might need to worry about for your championship?
So Eric is very quick. I race with him in another league, and I very much expect him to be in the front runners week after week. Definitely. I think it's a bit late in the season to make a championship run for him, but it'll be fun racing with him.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll look forward to seeing all of you virtual racing compound drivers up there. But still, credit to you to finish P2. You must be chuffed with that. And of course, if there is anyone you want to thank or shout out for your P2 finish, well, the floor is yours here.
Cheers, Ed. I gotta give a shout out to you guys. It feels like it's been a dog age since we heard you last. So happy to be back in the booth. And a shout out to all the virtual racing compound drivers. We always have a blast running these together, so it's good to be back.
No problem. Me and Hasse are always happy to be commentating on all of the action here on SimRacer World TV, especially as well of all of you here for the Sunday GT3 Masters. But credit to you, mate, and go and celebrate this P2. So that was Nick McLaughlin coming through to have a chat with myself, and Hasse, you've great timing. You've brought in a driver that I think you're going to have a chat to, P3 finisher Martin de Jong.
Well, indeed. Welcome, Martin, and good evening, Galvan. And what a race, mate! 11th to 3rd. That's gonna be one to remember.
Yeah, I gave the two angels on my shoulder a big reward for that. I mean, I think I was lucky for a couple of times, and in the end I was able to hold off Peter because he had damage, he said. So, I mean, it was a very sweaty race. That's yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. That's exactly what race winner Matthew Forrest says. Exactly, because he had that same feeling. It looked to be a very hectic race. How did the Audi take it? It looked you were struggling on pace in the corners, particularly late in the race. Did you feel like the tires were going at that point?
Not necessarily. I mean, at some points I was kind of up my quicker than my fastest lap, and then a couple of corners later I would just lose it again, and the other lap some other corners again. But after the season 3 update, the Audi hasn't become easier to drive. So at least I'm very happy that I didn't Audi myself again.
Given how the Audi is kind of a reputation already, that's certainly not going to be. 3rd place here isn't going to be the worst result for you in terms of points standings. For the shot there still. Your view on the rest of the season and the second half that...
Winning the championship, yeah, that won't be within reach. I mean, Matthew is just way too quick. The only way to get that is for him either missing one or more races, or having really bad luck. But I think when I have the Audi back under control a bit, I mean, I haven't driven it for 3 months now. I think second is a nice goal to achieve, but if I remain third, I'm as well happy. I mean, in the end, what counts for me is the racing. And if I look at the race today and the fights I had, the overtakes I did on Junior, I mean, that's what racing is about. And in the end, that is for me is the most satisfying part of the racing. And yeah, being up there in the standings is a big plus, of course.
Nice to have you on, Martin, and we hope for the best of you for the rest of this. I'm out. Before we let you off the hook, is there anyone you'd like to give a thanks or a shout out to here?
Well, thank you again, of course, to Robert for hosting the series, and for Dirk getting making sure this weekend is going all according to plan due to the absence of Robert. For the rest, big thank you to everyone who's participating here, and as well to you guys. Big thanks for the great commentary.
Thank you, Martin. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for taking the time, and congratulations on the podium place. Get you off. And actually, by the way, also a big shout out to Robert, who is indeed playing cold beer. As he told me, at least, if he's true to his word, he will be drinking cold beer. So a big shout out to our main organizer here for this, and then I will Rob the Lobster. Yeah, dearly. Anyways, Martin, thanks for stopping by. Well,
hope to see you guys the next races.
That was Martin de Jong, and that completes interviews on our behalf, and that means the broadcast as well. Absolute pleasure to be here alongside Edward May yet again. I have been missing you, Edward. It's been my pleasure. Utmost. Back commentating. Fun. and seeing more and more to one another as the broadcasts are gonna come rolling back here on SRW over the next as the autumn season of racing.
Definitely, Hasse. And of course, if you are looking forward to the next round of the Sunday GT Masters, well, then mark it in your calendars for 2 weeks from now, the 29th of August, a Sunday, as always, for the Sunday GT Masters at Road America. Same time, of course, and same time as well, with hopefully same people talking through all of the action, myself and Hasse Rømer. But as this has been a cracking race here at Road Atlanta, and it's just great to be back in the box with you. Really enjoying this, and I cannot wait for the next one.
Well, indeed. If you like what you've seen here on Sim Racers World TV, and do leave. If you want to see more, subscribe. Bell icon to get notified whenever we go live with a stream. As I said, coming those as we get back schedule. Thanks for tuning in with us tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure having you all along. So at the end of it, my name is Hasse Rømer. I've been with Edward May, and until next time, take care, have fun, and